This video is brought to you by my patrons. Thank you so much for your support, and a special thank you to my newest patron, Zrek629. Consider becoming a patron today and support the content you love while gaining benefits along the way. The best and most beautiful things in the world cannot be seen or even touched. They must be felt with the heart. There's something special that can be said about the simplicity of red, a color whose intentions are rooted in the pure impulses of the heart, a color not bogged down by the doubts crafted by our own minds, doubts which can hold us back from getting the most out of our lives. Now, don't be fooled by such words as simplicity, as this is not an offhanded remark. It is instead a strength in this context and refers to a purity of emotion. As every moment we spend doubting ourselves, we move further away from our true nature. And so ideas such as immediate emotional gratification, purity of action, and impulsive reaction are who we really are, and it is something bred out of us through the rigid structures of society. Red asks that you rely on your body and not your mind. What I mean is that you should follow your heart, trust your gut, and do not be led astray by your fears and doubts. For if you do, life's true beauty will pass you by. Often we will try and find the best path forward because we are afraid of being hurt or of failing, and yet I would say these negatives are also part of what makes life what it is. We must get hurt, fall, and get back up to truly experience a full life. It is in every range of our emotions that we find purpose and a true satisfaction within our limited time we have on this earth. So do not fear what might be, and instead push forward with conviction and trust that your heart will lead you to where you need to be. To best understand red, we must do a bit of an introspective experiment. That way you can get into the mindset of this color. Think of a time in your life when you had that gut feeling, a decision that came to you instantly when confronted with a choice. In this situation, did you act on your feelings right away? Or did you hesitate and make a different, safer decision in the end? In this situation, did you end up regretting taking the safer path? Do you find yourself looking back years later and wondering what could have been if you simply had just acted on your initial impulse? In some cases, it's a love that could have been, last words that could have been said, or a missed opportunity of some other kind. This is what red aims to avoid. In the end, we know what we want, but often we delude our intentions because of fear and doubt. And so to truly be red, it means to completely give into these impulses and accept the chaos of who we really are. It is in this state of zero that red exists. What do I mean by state zero? Well, when an impulse first comes to our mind, we rarely act on it right away. We take a moment to think about it, then we weigh another option. Finally, we may forgo acting on it altogether. In this way, we are stepping away from our initial state, or place of zero, and becoming a projection of who we think we are, instead of leaning into our original impulse by simply just being who we are. In this base state, we are driven by our emotions and of our inner mind, the part of ourself which reacts, our true nature. Of course, this hesitation comes from a place of fear and doubt, and to red, this is what slowly kills our true self until one day we look back and wonder how we could have changed so much. Simply be who you are and do not try to be anything else. Just accept the chaos. I am hoping you're starting to understand where red is coming from, but now I want to begin piecing together the implications of what shape a red mindset would take by discussing the utopic view of red, as I believe this will set in stone our understanding of this color, as the utopic view is the result of leaning fully into this color to find what they would consider to be an ideal world. An ideal world to red would be one where each person is free to live out the true expression of themselves. A place free from judgment and artificial restrictions. A world constructed with empathy instead of rigid laws. It would do away with systems and laws which only benefit the few who create them. Of course, there would be a level of chaos here, as everyone's intentions vary wildly, and yet the people within this world would find a rhythm here, a place to be without fear. Anarchy doesn't always mean violence or destruction. It simply means organic systems which are dictated by the people within them, not externally forced upon them. We always see in Magic that red is the aggressor, as it's a game centered around combat, which is valid, as anger is also a strong emotion in red. But I do believe outside of this restriction, red would more often align with compassion. Because when it comes down to it, most people are good. And it is the arbitrary borders and class systems we place between ourselves that breed resentment for our fellow man. In the end, we're all human, and all we really want is to be ourselves, to be happy. In this way, the utopia for red would boil down to one goal: finding happiness within our limited time on this plane of existence, instead of toiling away with nothing to show for it. It would be a world where freedom of expression and freedom of emotion were the only ways to live. A place where compassion and camaraderie were the tools of keeping everything on track. From here, I want to talk about red's placement on the color pie and its relation to each of the colors, because this is an important part of what makes each color what they are, as each color is influenced by its allies and enemies in kind. Let's start with red's enemies first, to learn how pushing against their ideals forms red's view of the world, beginning with white. It could be said that red gains its desire for freedom from its opposition to white. Red looks to white and sees a color who restricts human nature because it fears chaos, even though chaos is the one constant in the universe. I have sometimes said that white represents humanity's desires, and yet red would disagree with me on such assumptions, even go as far as to call them foolish. Red would claim that it is the one who holds the truth to who we really are and what we want. Simply put, humanity in its purest form. White wishes to stifle freedom for control, which it parades as some higher calling for peace. Humans, by their very nature, desire the freedom to act, and it's these falsehoods which oppress us. Red, in its purest form, could never see itself living in such a way. The other color which pushes against red is blue, a color of cold logic, a color whose delusions reside in the idea of perfection, as if humans weren't already perfect the way they are. Red disagrees wholeheartedly with blue's desire to put thought before feeling. As I've said, it's in doubting our initial intentions that takes us further from our humanity. It would seem to red that blue wishes to strip away its humanity and become more like a robot, and to that end, red stands in defiance of such ideas. What about its allies though? Take green for instance, a color that shares a lot in common with red. Green looks to nature's examples, in that it understands we are but animals upon this earth, and thus it follows its instincts to find its purpose. And isn't instinct another form of impulse? Sure, red would say we are humans, not animals, and we deserve more than that classification. We are indeed a unique part of this world. But there is a lot of room for overlap between these two colors. Green respects freedom, and in that way these colors help show each other that the answers we seek are right in front of us all along. We must simply look within to find them. Finally, there is black, a color much like red in that they both share a belief in the individual, in finding the path that is right for you, of getting the most out of your life. With both colors being enemies of white, they have a focus on personal satisfaction and validation. While black can take individualism too far at times, red can find common ground with black. and to that end, they both reflect the desires we all hold deep within. Red, simply put, is the color of freedom, passion, and emotional purity. If we look deeper into our own souls, we will find red within. It's the pulse of the heart that wishes to be free. It is the visceral reaction to what excites us, or of the deep love that binds us. This feeling is strongest in us when we are young. As children, we follow our heart no matter where it leads. Some say it's emotional immaturity, and yet Red would state that it is us adults who are emotionally immature. By stunting, controlling, and concealing our emotions, we're saying that we don't like who we truly are. And to Red, that's a shame. We need to reconnect with the child inside all of us, the one who gets excited, angry, sad, and happy at the drop of a hat. We must stop fearing our true nature, follow our heart wherever it may lead. Sure, we may get hurt, we may fall or embarrass ourselves, but if we don't put ourselves out there, then we'll never fall in love, find fulfillment, or act upon our desires. Well, that was the second last one of the Recolor, well, as I've come to call it now, the definitive Color Pie series. If you do want to support the first video of 2022, then be sure to like, comment, and share it with your friends, because the more people we got seeing these videos, the bigger the discussion, and that's always awesome. If you noticed in these videos, I come at it with a perspective based on that color, so that's why we don't touch on a lot of the negatives of each color. Where the negatives come from is more a matter of perspective. Red would say that there is no negatives to being mono red, but then white would say that the chaos found within it, the anarchy, is unsustainable, you know? So that's the way I like to set these up. So if you find that maybe I'm not touching on things that you disagree with Red, then perhaps that's based on your perspective of why you think Red is wrong, which is a very interesting way to look at it, and that's how I urge you to sort of look at it. If you do disagree with a color's mindset, think about why, and maybe that shows you that you're one of its enemy colors more so than that color. But once again, monocolors never really can get it right. There has to be a little more nuance than that. With that, friends, I'm looking forward to 2022, and I'll catch you in the multiverse. Bye.